Welcome to another episode of Exploring Possibilities on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, my website, journeyofpossibilities.com, and my new YouTube channel, YouTube/Cheryl Sitz. I am Cheryl Sitz, your host, where each week we have some of the most interesting, inspiring conversations on the planet. It's our mission to explore holistic spiritual ways that we can transform life from the inside out. If you like what you hear, please show us some love so we can keep bringing you these shows. You can make your contribution at journeyofpossibilities.com/support. The show and our website are both the skillful creations of tech shaman Mario Rosales of Tech Life Balance. Mario, how can you help our listeners this week?
Thank you, Cheryl. I actually want to say, first off, I don't speak geek. I speak English, Lightworker, Galactic, Spanish, or you name it, I can probably work it or figure it out, even sign language maybe. Anyway, the truth of the matter is I can make it understandable for you. Technology seems to be very complicated for a lot of people, and I've been in it for a long time, and I can make it understandable. I don't try to sell you stuff that you don't need, because that's not me. What I am the type of person that can give you the truth. The things that you don't need, we can say, no, we don't need that. Or I even have a listener one time that called me and we agreed that she wasn't ready for my services. So what can I help you with? I can help you with websites, blogs, video, podcasts, social media. And yeah, even that weird stuff. Go ahead and give me a call and we can figure it out. Contact me at marrosales.net and I look forward to talking to you.
Who are you? Why are you here? What wonders and opportunities await you beyond physical death? What happened millennia ago to create the damaged earth and fractured societies you see around you? Empowering, enlightening, internationally acclaimed, the Joseph Communications books offer answers to these questions. Spiritual, concise, contemporary, non-denominational, the communications originate from Joseph, a highly evolved discarnate spirit concerned for you and the future of the planet and its peoples. The words of Joseph and his soul group give you the power to bring light and change into your own life and the lives of others and to restore the earth. Available in paperback, ebook and audiobook formats, the communications can be ordered today at www.thejosephcommunications.com and also from Amazon and other major booksellers. All proceeds are used for further publishing and advertising and to make the communications available worldwide.
Today, I have a couple of very special guests with me. Special in so many ways and close to my heart because their journey is a lot like my journey's been in many ways. Sister Judy Bisignano is a Dominican nun, a fierce educator, and a rebel. Her book and movie share her journey from a difficult childhood to what turned out to be a rather abusive convent situation, I'm afraid. But she focused her energy and her love on working with children. She opened several schools, but when her startup school for the Mexican-American community closed, all of her anger finally caught up with her. She followed some timely advice from Sandra Morse, who's also joining us today, and traveled to the Amazon in Ecuador to observe the sacred rituals of the Jaguar people, where she finally found God, healing, and forgiveness. The Ayahuasca people now call her Hermana Oturango. That's Sister Jaguar. And today we're going to start out talking with Sister Jaguar. Welcome to the show, Sister.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I am so honored to have you. And, you know, it isn't every day that I meet a nun that has drank ayahuasca in the jungle and found God. This is quite a treat.
I would say that that's an unusual situation, yes. I don't know any nun that's done that, but I've heard that there's one or two, but I don't know who they are.
Well, it is such a treat to get to talk to you about it. And I want to read just a couple of lines right here out of your book that kind of set the stage for this. You said in the book, I received deeply toxic messages delivered in the name of God, and I had a hard time swallowing the church's persecutory morality. After a lifetime of grappling with ideologies I knew in my heart to be poisonous, I'm still mending the wounds I both caused and suffered because of these religious beliefs. That's a very powerful statement, and it kind of sums up your journey, doesn't it?
It does. I was angry, and I didn't really know I was angry, and I just thought it was normal. I thought all 4-year-olds got backhanded and whipped by their mother. I just didn't. To me, it was just the way it was, and I think I got more angry and more angry as it grew up to 16. When I was 16, I finally decided that she wasn't going to do that anymore, and she decided too, and we certainly had a better life after that. But then when I joined the convent, lo and behold, there's more, not physical abuse, but just so much verbal abuse and so much being put down in order to be built up. I couldn't understand the theology of being humiliated all under the guise that's humility, or that I just didn't get it. And it was just more anger and more anger until I eventually exploded 45 years later. But I always thought that anger was fortitude or passion, but it wasn't. It was craziness.
Well, you went through a lot. I mean, it isn't every nun that has to go through 3 initiatory processes. And I mean,
no.
you got sent. Your rebellious streak kind of really played havoc with you at the convent, didn't it?
Yeah, I thought, what's wrong with them that I got to do this 3 times? Then it got to be, well, I didn't even go for the right motives. I just finally was just going to beat them at their own stupidity, and I eventually I lost the reason why I wanted to be a nun in the first place. But 3 novitiates is enough to, I mean, 1 novitiate is one too many as far as I'm concerned. I just don't think in the 19th today it might be, and I know it is, totally different in terms of formation for our sisters, but and for all sisters, hopefully. But back in the 60s, it was a different era, and it was indeed abusive.
Well, and as you say, this was the 60s. This is when outside of those walls, we had the explosion of sexual freedom, and we had racial conflict. We had everything going on in the streets, and you really didn't even have a way to have conversations about those things in the home, did you?
No. And that's the irony, is that right at that point, socially, politically, things were changing, and I fit in perfectly to those changes. Boy, I was a rebel. Yeah, I wanted to be a voice for the poor, and I wanted to fight injustices related to border issues that we're fighting today. Right. And Martin Luther King was on the prowl, and our nuns were with him, and I was only 20 at the time. I wanted to be there. They wouldn't let me join Martin Luther King Jr., but I was still in my 3rd novitiate, and but I was certainly ready for those changes. In fact, that's probably where the rubber hit the road, is that you had these young women that wanted to commit to a lifestyle that was of service, about justice, but we kept running into a dogma and a tradition that didn't really speak to who we wanted to be and become. Yeah.
Well, and you say in the book that you kind of, I mean, you really put all that anger that was kind of building under the surface over those years into deciding you were going to make a difference in education, right? For children. And that's where you funneled all your energy.
Well, it was either that or probably be some kind of a criminal and wind up in prison for the rest of my life. I had to do something with that anger. I don't know why. I was lucky enough to have it turn into human good instead of just total self-destruction. And so every time I felt abused, I vowed and committed that no kid was ever going to feel that way again. No, I was going to build a school that was very free and very open and very supportive, and where the kids were the center of gravity and not authority and teachers. And I spent my life trying to change that system, and somewhat within religious life. I kind of let religious life let them stew among themselves, but I haven't. I was much more of an educator than I ever was, a good nun.
Right. Well, and I can
whatever a good nun is, obedient.
Yes.
I was a little short on obedience.
Well, I can only imagine if I had like an abusive childhood and I thought I'm going to go and join a sisterhood and I only found more abuse there. I mean, at one point, weren't you put into like a sanitarium? Didn't you go into that in your book?
Yeah. Well, yes, I had double vision, and I don't know it was stress, or I also have been a 3-time cancer survivor, and I had cancer when I was 20, yeah. So at 18, I had double vision, and they thought maybe it was related to thyroid cancer that was brewing. I didn't know. I just had double vision. So the novice mistress says, oh, well, don't worry. You just go to an eye doctor, and make a long story short, I got tackled and drug into an insane asylum for 6 weeks. And I was talk about being enraged and outraged and being oh God, talk about being mad. And so I thought, well, I'm going to fight back. You know, I could leave, and then what?
Right.
Or I can stay in the system and fight the abuse. And I think I've been trying to do that. That's what the book was about. And that's what the film was about.
Yes. Well, and the timing of it all. So here you are about to finally complete, I think, your second initiate at that point, and then they put you in there and you missed what you needed to do and you had to go through the whole thing a third time. I mean, it was like, wow, how...
Right. Well, they deliberately missed it. You can't be out of the convent for more than 10 days. And so being in the insane asylum for 6 weeks, obviously, I overstayed my welcome, and I said, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this loony bin. I got to get back to I got to get back to the other loony bin. And they said, well, we're supposed to observe how you act when you break this 10-day deal. And I said, how I act? Are you kidding me? I'm going to take the place down brick by brick. That's how I'm going to act. And so I was enraged, and I get mad right now thinking about it.
Well, I'm not trying to stir up your anger or anything. I just felt like it was really important to kind of touch on this stuff because, you know.
Not to worry.
So many of
I got
us.
Sandra on the line. Don't worry.
So many of us have religious baggage, and I think you kind of are the poster child for how extreme that can be. But, you know, I had my version of it, and I have many friends that have had their versions of it, of control and shame and humiliation in the name of God.
Yep.
And
yep.
So it's healing for us to hear about your journey and to hear that you actually went to those depths and still used your anger to do good. And then when that good fell apart at some point, you were able to find healing for your own anger before it ate you up from the inside out, right? Isn't that kind of how it went?
Yes, barely. Sandra Morris grabbed me by my hair at the last, you know, I was 68 years old, still acting, still pushing, thinking the rest of the world lacks commitment. Well, hello. I just had no idea how to deal with the baggage. I just kept getting more. There was no hope chest in all my baggage. I just kept that anger going. And finally she just said, well, you're going to self-destruct. You've already self-destructed one school. Thank God the other school is still going well today.
Good.
It's, you know, you're your problem. You're the problem. When you get over your anger, you're going to be able to do something with your life. And I thought, well, at 68, I better hurry up and figure out what life is about. So she was the one that told me that I was the problem. And all that time, 68 years, I was convinced that my mom was the problem and the bishop was the problem and the novice mistress was the problem. And then Sandra Morris comes along and says, oh, well, I got news for you. You're the problem. You're the problem.
So were you two friends already, or was she a consultant on projects, or how did you get to know her?
I knew her from around town. I heard that there was this life coach or whatever she is that would help you think different, not like anybody else. She was a shrink type person that would really not mess around with old protocol, and she'd get right to the heart of what the problem is and not let you play games. And I didn't think I was still. I called her to fix the school, to fix the staff. I said, Sandra, I have this staff that just they're out of touch. You know, can you come and help the staff. And then after investigating a little bit, she says, I got news for who's out of touch around here. Mm-hmm. So then I said, well, now what? Now what do I do? And she says, well, you give it all up. You surrender. So I said, oh yeah, me surrender. Me, I'm the head of the persecution committee. What do you mean surrender? I don't know what surrender means. And she says, well, no, you don't, because you don't have no setting for it. You have no past or future or presence. She said, come to the rainforest and surrender in the Amazon rainforest where you're not in charge, Sister Know-It-All. And I said, yeah. And I did, and it transformed my life, absolutely transformed my life. That was, 9 years ago, I guess.
Yes, it does transform life. Absolutely. So, Sandra, you're on the line. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on. So how does it feel to approach a nun and say, you know what, you're the problem and you need to come and drink ayahuasca with me in the jungle? How did that conversation go?
Well, that conversation, it was a long time coming. It was, it was really the last act of possibility in my relationship with Sister Judy, because she was so entrained and so cultivated around being angry that there was no way of talking to her. There was no way of reasoning with her before she got triggered into another massive episode of anger. So she was what I would describe angry as waiting to happen. Right. So in a very heartfelt moment where I knew she wanted something other than what she had, and there was no way of her acquiring it through her logical mind, that, ayahuasca is a powerful helping ally and that it would help her to get to where she needed to go. And, in all of her cultivated ways of being around being angry and indignant and righteous, she also had cultivated a way of being where she was willing and she could say yes. And I knew that if I extended the invitation to her, she would go. Away we went. Once I got her to go, I couldn't get her to stop going.
That's right.
Well, you sound like you were a lot more than a life coach. You were already affiliated with the Pachamama Alliance and working with ayahuasca plant medicine and the Achuar people at this time?
Yes. No, actually, Sister Judy was on my... I had been invited by the Pachamama Alliance to... take people down to the jungle, and I had already been a few times, and so Sister Judy was on my very first trip as a guide. She came with me on my first trip, so I knew that really, I knew that the experience of being with the Achuar and having a different cosmology at her fingertips, really understanding how the Achuar relate to life. And then in addition to that, having some tea, I knew that tea would help her put her egoic mind to rest and let her let go of some of the energies that she was carrying that were no longer suitable for her. She didn't even want them. And there's no way of talking one through letting go of those energies. It's experiential.
Right.
So the experience of having that tea I knew it would be very, very helpful for her. I knew it would be what she was looking for ultimately, the opportunity to release outside of the logical mind, the opportunity to release some of those energies, that righteous, angry energy she was carrying that was no longer suitable for her.
I love the way you language that, because I went through the same thing. Like, I think many of us develop these survival skills in childhood, and they are beneficial for us. They give us strength. They help us push on. They help us push through. But then at some point in life, we're pushing on and pushing through, and we're pushing everything away, and we're not doing our healing work. And you're absolutely right. This work, this going into these cultures and allowing God to speak to us through plant medicine and reconnect us to the truth of who we are is the most powerful way to find our way back to ourselves when we've gotten lost in our own, whatever you call those, coping mechanisms or whatever they are. So I love the way you guys language that throughout the book. And now you help other people. This has become a recurring thing for you, right? You said you guys have been 5 times together now?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a recurring thing. I've been to the rainforest. I'm going again in April I think it's my 17th trip. So yeah, I mean, it's an important experience for people, I think, and if you're looking for it, it'll find you.
Yes.
And to have the opportunity to have people have this experience, it's life-changing.
It is life-changing. And we take people as well to Peru, which is where my awakening happened. And I had a lot of the similar stuff. I had a lot of religious baggage. I had a lot of control issues. I had no idea how to open my heart anymore because every time I had it, it hurt so bad. I just sealed it up and threw away the key. And it's just a beautiful way to allow God to come back in when you have no idea where to find God anymore.
Right.
It was the perfect setting because I couldn't control it. And I actually went there with Sandra thinking, well, I'm going to go do some good. So nuns, all we do is run around and do good for the poor, or for what, you know. The Ayahuasca aren't poor by any, they're not poor by any means. They have riches that I never had,
Yes.
and maybe never will have to the degree. I mean, their bounty, their plate is full in many, many ways, culturally, spiritually. Yes, they live simply, but being simple is not the same as being poor.
Yes.
And it just transformed the whole ayahuasca experience. I went into it thinking, well, you know, maybe it's going to do something for my brain. I had no idea that it was a total transformation. I had no idea that what I was in for when I went until I was in the ceremony, actually. When I had met grandmother, that I knew I had more than met my match, believe me.
Yes. Well, you say in the book, as I prepared to move from my head to my heart, I had no idea I would be called to surrender my soul. That is perfect. That's exactly what happens. And it looks different for each person. So what did being called to surrender your soul, what did that actually look like for you?
Well, I never believed that I had a problem. I wasn't angry. The rest of the world was off, and I was on track. When grandmother's what we call ayahuasca. When I met grandmother, she says to me, well, here, you meet yourself. Here's your anger. Here's the anger that you have put into this world. And I had a vision of the anger that I had spewed upon the planet. And it was grotesque, and it was beyond. I still sometimes have that dream or part of that dream, and it after that vision, there was no more, oh well, you know, everybody else is wrong. I'm not. What's wrong with my anger? I could see what was wrong with my anger, but gratefully, and grandmother didn't leave me there. Grandmother says, okay, now I'm going to show you the good that you've done in the world as a nun, in spite of the fact that you are angry. Look at the good you've done. And I would say equally, the second vision was of the kids I taught, and the good that I had done, and the risks that I had taken for social justice, the stance that I have taken for women to have a voice relative to justice. And I could see the good in the world. So here is this Sister Jaguar, this Sister Judy, was just in a conundrum of, oh my God, I could be this awful or dark and this marvelous. And so I couldn't just hate myself for who I was, because I could see also what I was. I mean, it was to have the first experience with grandmother be what it was. Only she knew what I needed, and what. When I was finished with that first experience, and I don't even know if I'm finished to this day. I'll probably dream about it again tonight, just because we're talking about it. I hope I do. But it transformed my life, and it never would have happened without Sandra putting me at that space in time and that place, that amazing, amazing place among the Achuar.
Yes, and I believe that the rainforest, the Amazon, whether we're speaking of Peru or Ecuador or all of it, I believe the rainforest and being with the indigenous peoples in their traditional ways and customs is every bit as healing as the medicine itself. It's all medicine. It's like just surrendering into that total environment, and then to the plant and to Pachamama, and just really opening the heart for healing. It is a life-changing experience. There's nothing else like it.
right.
So you say that you met God in the jungle, the God that you'd always been looking for. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, it was it was self-compassion, I guess. I finally looked at myself with some semblance of love. The brokenness was there, but the glory was there too. And somehow, working with Sandra after that, and being with the Jaguar many times after that, the balance. It wasn't around religion anymore. It was around spirituality.
Yes.
So I wasn't looking to be a good nun and to be an obedient nun and to be what I was looking to be a grace-filled soul, and it was the theology. Everything switched. Everything became meaningful, and all those years looking for God in all the wrong places, finally finding spirit among the Jaguar in the Amazon jungle. Who would have known that? I mean, I just felt like Eve, maybe,
yes,
back in the Garden of Eden. It was bliss that I had never known, and I believed in it. I thought it was real, and it is real.
It is real.
Once you get through once you can forgive yourself, then you can love yourself and love others. I had never really accepted the fact of who and what I was, and I had never forgiven myself until I got Sandra's help in the jungle.
That's beautiful. And Sandra, you must get to hear these kinds of stories all the time doing the work that you do. How has it actually changed your life to do this work?
Oh, well, to take people to the jungle.
Well, actually, to do the healing work yourself, too. Like, has it opened and expanded you in any ways personally?
Oh, completely. Well, you drink this tea, and you have no idea. Look, what I know, who I knew myself to be, and who I knew life to be prior to ayahuasca is so different than who I know myself to be and who I know life to be post ayahuasca. And it's not that ayahuasca, is a cure-all. It's that it became for me an information system.
Yes.
It provided a way of relating and understanding and seeing that I didn't have prior to ingesting this tea. I didn't know that what I didn't know.
Yes.
So it became afterwards my impulses, my way of relating, the way my body moved through the world just became different. And it's one of those, it's hard to describe what it's like to be wet, but once you're wet, wet. So it's a little bit like that. I didn't know that it was possible to be related to life and the energy of life in the way in which I experienced through drinking ayahuasca.
Oh, that's beautifully put. Absolutely. And it's changed everything about my life, the way I relate to food, the way I relate to the planet, to animals, to other people, to right. My role in it. Like we love to say, once you see, you can't unsee. It's like your eyes are opened in a way you didn't even realize they were closed, right?
Well, yes, but now look, we come from a culture where we want a pill to fix it. We
Yes.
come from a culture where we just fix it, make it better right now, find a way. Please help me to find a way right away for me to sort myself out so I can be okay with me and I can be okay with my life and I can deal with the fact that I died. Just give me a pill for that, okay? And that's the reality, People be listening to us and they'll say in your show, oh, I'm going to drink this stuff and it's going to make me better. Well,
Right.
Yeah, it's going to make you better, but it's not going to fix you. Only person who can fix you is you. And the only way you can fix you is you can figure out how to belong to all the rest of us, right?
Yes.
We live at a time when we have a crisis of belonging. We have a crisis of understanding what it means to be human. So at least we have this possibility of drinking this tea that will put us on el camino de luz, the road of light, the road of understanding what it means to be human, because we have forgotten what it means to be human. And once you drink the tea, in my experience, the ante gets up, you up the ante. And you don't up the ante in terms of making it easier for yourself. You up the ante in terms of what it means to be human. You're called to a higher level of your own humanity. So it's not a cure-all. It's not a fix. It's simply an opportunity to find a way to be more yourself and more connected to the other, So I just want to make sure that your audience isn't listening like this is a cure-all or a fix, because it's not. Ask my family. They'd say, really? You think she's that much better? I don't think so, right? So, people have to understand that, there are invitations. Life is constantly extending you invitations, constantly extending invitations so that you can understand who you are in yourself and in relationship to the other. I mean, I hate to tell people this. I hate to break the news, but we're tribal and we belong to each other. Yes. And we belong to each other in a way that once you understand that, there's no turning back, right? You are more important to me and always have been than my bank account, my assets, my identity, my education. I mean, we need each other. And that's what the indigenous people are pointing at, like, hey, white folk out there, I think you missed the memo. We're tribal.
Yes.
We're tribal. We're not independent. It's we, not me, right? So
yes.
At least there's this plant medicine and others and other plant medicine out there that help you make that transition, build a bridge from this lonely, isolated, meaningless existence into a much more powerful way of understanding the meaning of connection.
Yes.
So, it's work, but it's so great because it's so much fun. You can really have a good time.
Yes.
It's not, you can really have a good time in this work, working with plants.
She makes it sound more fun than I find it to be, but that's okay. This thing, as Sandra said, she doesn't want people to think that you just chug a lug some ayahuasca like in a bar and then everything is just, after I met grandmother, I had the hardest, I've never had as hard a time in my life as the time I came home after meeting grandmother. Yes. And I broke my leg 7 years ago. To make a long story short, I walked on a broken leg for 2 years, and it didn't heal. Had a tremendous surgery, and it blew up in my face. So far, it's blown up twice. And I'm still sitting on the side of my bed right now talking to you, moaning and groaning and rubbing my knee. And I haven't taken a solid step on my right leg in 7 years. My leg is gone in terms of the ability to walk. Well, that all happened right after I got back from the rainforest. Whoopee-doo. And I've learned how to have a spirituality from my bedroom and from my condominium that I'm in community with another nun and the tribe. I never knew what church was until I met this crazy tribe of wonderful human beings of all sizes and shapes and ages and professions and struggles, and we're together in a very mutually supportive community, and we're good for each other, and we're tough with each other. We're hard. We call each other to be more, and to do all of that in the midst of this this pain. How to have pain without having suffering is the theology that I'm finding out, that what's real and what isn't real.
Yes. And, and for me too, I have not had the picnic walk since I drank ayahuasca and started working with plant medicine in 2012. I've had some of the deepest, most profound experiences of my life. I've had moments of great joy, and I've had moments of deep, deep inner darkness, and all it does is expand the totality of who we are, and you can't unsee that after that. So it is not a quick fix by any means, and
no,
I'm glad that you both share that.
It's a way of life, and thank God I had Sandra, not for this one shot in the jungle, but that I have a mentor who can guide me before, during, and after. I mean, I'm the luckiest person on the planet. I mean, grandmother just took care of me and blessed me in ways that I never knew could happen. And it's transformational. Am I like every other nun, in terms of spirituality and religion? Absolutely not. No. In terms of the Catholic Church, no. Do I know joy and ecstasy after? Yeah, but it's sort of like it becomes a spiritual a daily. It takes discipline.
Yes.
And I've in the last 7 years I've fought through and coped with and surrendered into a relationship with grandmother that is brings me great peace and joy.
That's wonderful. And you're so right. It is important to have a support system. Mario and I talk a lot about that, about integration. It's one thing to go and have this experience in Peru, in Ecuador, anywhere, but then that's an opening, and that's where the work begins. That's just the beginning of it all. And then how much more we can do with that once we come home in terms of expanding our daily life and our daily practices, and really sitting and developing a practice of being with ourselves. And at least as a nun, you were used to having some quiet, reflective time every day. And many of us just fly through our lives. We don't even take 10 minutes to meditate or anything. So it's important to slow down and be with the things that grandmother shows us. Sandra, you do work with people, helping them get there and come back and all of that, right?
Right, I do. I help people. I do. I feel like I'm in service to the medicine. I feel like I'm really what happened to me when I went to the rainforest. Before I went to the rainforest, I found myself in Guatemala with the head of the Mayan Council of the Elders. And my life was moving in one direction. And when I met him, all of a sudden it was moving in another direction, and in the direction of my destiny, what I was born to do. So I have a relationship with the plants that help me to help people, get to where they need to go so that they can get on the path of their own destiny.
Right.
And taking people to the jungle is one of the ways that I do that.
That's fantastic. So we'll have your contact information on here as well. I know that we need to let you get off to another meeting, but I am so grateful that you joined us today. And I don't want to let you get away without asking you what I ask all my guests, which is, do you have a parting thought of your own that you'd like to leave us with today?
Yes, I do. I just really invite people to say yes to the invitations that are extended to you in your life by your friends and your families, and even by people you don't know, that just even if they're odd and unusual and something you say you would never do, accept the invitations that are in front of you. Say yes to life. Let life and the energy of life itself have a greater agency in your life than you're currently letting it have right now. Just have the courage to say yes.
I love that. When you were talking, all I could hear was the words, let the magic in, right? Like, let it happen.
That's exactly right. Let it in weird and unusual ways. The greatest things that ever happened to me because I said yes, and a part of me was like, are you kidding me? You just said yes to that? And then, boom, something happened that was so life-enhancing. So I just think it all happens in the ability to say yes.
That's a wonderful
share. Thank you for extending this invitation to Sister Judy and I to speak to you and your people. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and good luck with your meeting. And thank you so much for all that you do.
And
thank you.
And Sandra, thank you for dragging an old nun out of the ditch.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to anytime. Happy to. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye. Oh, bye-bye.
So Sister
best,
Jaguar, she's full of energy. I can see why you would say yes when she made a rather unusual suggestion to you.
Oh God. Oh, today she called me and said, I sent her a picture of my swollen knee and the purples, how bad it looks. And 2 minutes later, she texts me and says, "Oh, take an ice bath. If we get she says, I've got a horse trough with a we could fill it full of ice and put you in it, and if you could stay in it for 2 minutes, you're going to feel better. I think, oh my God, I don't even drink, but all I could think of was we just need to fill that ice trough with a bunch of beer, and maybe everybody could have a better time. That's all I could think of. So I started laughing so hard, my endorphins kicked in, and I feel better now, and I haven't even put any ice on my knees. So
oh, good.
That's Sandra for you.
Yes. Well,
she's pretty amazing.
She is amazing. And so are you, and it's interesting to me how as soon as you connected with the God that you'd always been looking for and started to have a truly spiritual experience with your life, your knee got injured and you were forced to really slow down and be with that. And that, I'm not saying the pain is a wonderful thing, but sometimes gifts come in strange ways. And I'm sure you've learned a lot about yourself in the time that you've been trying to nurse your knee and had to slow down.
Absolutely. And it all happened when I was almost 70, and now I'm almost 77, believe it or not. So yeah, the last 7 years have been the most difficult. And in many, because I was the boss. I was Sister Jaguar, the educator, Sister Jaguar, I hate to brag on my old ways, but I have alternative schools that I have founded that absolutely transform kids in ways that would never happen otherwise, and they're magnificent places. And I'm not there anymore. I've lost that. I still have kids and friends and teachers, and I wrote about it in my book. I wrote about the schools that I started, but
yes.
To lose that and to lose the mobility and everything crashed at once. Everything fell apart at once, and I think that was what it was supposed to be. And it's been a different journey in terms of Sister Jaguar's journey. Can I tell you how I got the name Sister Jaguar?
Oh, please do.
Okay. The first trip, I'm in the jungle, and I couldn't even walk then, and I hadn't even broken my leg yet, but I stayed in the canoe while the group went and hiked for 2 hours. So I already knew something was happening with that leg that didn't happen yet. And I'm sitting there with the Jaguar guide, one in front of the canoe and one in the back of the canoe. And I heard this slosh, slosh, slosh. And I look up, and lo and behold, this jaguar, a black jaguar, is walking along the riverbank, probably 30 feet from me. I could see in its eyes, and it was it just jumped and pounced on a bird, and the bird screamed and quickly died, and the jaguar turned around and just sloshed back and left. And I knew it was a big deal because of the way the Jaguar, the two guides were. They don't say, the Jaguar don't really talk, and they don't show a lot of emotion, but boy, they were impressed, and I was just stunned. I didn't know how. And to make a long story short, I am the only, I guess you'd call white person, the only person from the north to have ever gone on a Pachamama Alliance trip or any trip to the jungle there with the Jaguar and those villages there, 10 villages, that I'm the only one to have ever seen a black jaguar in the wild. No one has ever seen one except for me. So then Sandra Morris, who was the big shot, Sandrita, oh yes, Sandrita. I became the big shot. Everybody wanted to meet the nun who saw the black jaguar. So Sandra has to take her humility pill and sit there. Well, people in the village are handing me their babies and want me to touch them and bless them, and they wanted to meet Sister Jaguar. Well, no wonder I'd go back 5 times. They're so wonderful to me. And it just, they call me Sister Jaguar. And my name was Sister J anyway, Sister Judy. So my brothers always called me Sister J and or Dr. J. And so why not be Sister Jaguar? And that's how I got the name Sister Jaguar.
Well, and it's such a powerful symbol for the feminine energy, and for I mean, that's just a power symbol. I can't believe you actually saw one, but that's just amazing.
It was amazing. And the shamans, oh, you didn't see one, you didn't. And the two guides said yes, she did. She saw, and I'm glad they were there to vouch for me, because it's just so unusual. It was in the daytime, and just became that close to us, and it was pretty unbelievable.
Wow. You've had an amazing life, and I know it's had a lot of pain and a lot of anger, but it's also had some incredible accomplishments, as you've mentioned, in terms of education. And I'm sure that the lives that you've touched through whatever means, whether they be rebelling against a system or whatever, you've left your mark in a lot of ways with a lot of people. And so I'm really grateful that you were able to finally find your healing and be able to have a time where you can feel like you reconnect to parts of yourself that you had lost along the way. And what's next for you?
Well,
do you know? Do you just want to relax for a while and enjoy this journey, or?
Man, I don't know. I'm a teacher. I really appreciate being able to teach today. Today I was a teacher. That's when I started teaching. I'm old. I started with a blackboard, believe it or not, a slate board, and then the slate board turned to a green board, and then the green board turned to a whiteboard, and then the whiteboard turned to a smart board, and now it's turned to an iPhone, and I'm still teaching, and I appreciate the platform that you allow me to continue to tell my story and encourage people to push themselves as far as they can go. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been a teacher today.
Well, and you lead by example, and that's my favorite kind of leader, one that walks the talk. So thank you for boldly doing all of the things that you do that show us what's possible for ourselves. That's the greatest teacher of all right there.
Well, let's not give up on each other. And if you do get that chance to say yes, I don't know how you can afford it or if you can do it, but God, if some of your listeners, you could call Sandra Morris and go to the rainforest and let Sandra show you how to look at the world from the eyes of the Jaguar. Oh my God.
Yes.
Maybe grandmother will tell you what the meaning of life is too. And if not, then go there tonight in meditation or prayer or dance or food or whatever, a good dinner, whatever, however you go there. Find joy and bliss somewhere today and pass it on.
That's excellent advice. I think that's a great place to close the show for today. Thank you so much for being with us. You're welcome on here anytime you want to come teach. We love you.
Well, thank you. We love you too. God bless.
Thank you for listening today. Let us know what you thought. info@journeyofpossibilities.com. And we'll see you next week on Exploring Possibilities.